Bum, 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 that yours. Why does this do so much damage? That doesn't make sense. Hello. How are you? Yeah. So, oh wait, hold on one second. Yes. Um, the the last two episodes of season 4 or season 3 are half measures, then full measures. So in half measures, the second to last episode, that's the one where um Jesse is upset because he finds it. So Jesse starts dating Andrea,
Huh.
and Andrea has a little brother named Brock,
Yes.
and him and Brock immediately hit it off. They're good friends. Brock's like maybe 7 or 8. And obviously he likes Andrea, but Andrea is sad about her other brother who has run off and is like doing illegal gang activity, and she's sad about it. So, Jesse then kind of pieces together. Wait a second, the illegal gang activity that her brother's in. He's the kid. He pieces together that her little brother is the one who killed Jesse's friend Combo, which then makes him realize there's no way that he was actually trying to kill Jesse's friend. He must be being used by like gang members or whatever. And Jesse does not like. Jesse gets very upset. So Jesse basically has this plan to try. He wants to get revenge and wants to kill those gang guys. And he tells Walt about it. And he basically says, "We got to do something." And Walt's like, I don't think it's a good idea because the guys work for Gus and they're scared of Gus because Gus is a menacing member of the cartel. um, it's very, very maniacal and like just he gives off the vibes of being like a supervillain that you just like are disturbed by how like yeah maniacal and plotting he is. Um, so he Walt then goes to Gus and it's like, hey, listen, Jesse's really not happy about this whole thing. How about we meet together? You bring your guys in, and we clear this up.
Yeah.
So then they have a meeting where basically the three of them meet up. Mike's there, um, as Gus's uh muscle, and they basically talk. And Jesse's just like they're using kids, and then the two dudes are like there, and he's just like, how about like what they do with their business on their end of the business is like not up to me. Jesse does not like that answer, and he like stands up to Gus and just like, how dare you? Like, are you okay? Are you actually okay with this? Like, and so he's just like, fine, and he's like, we'll make them. And he's just like, he tells the guys to leave, and he's just like, we'll work this out. And he goes, I will tell them that they are not allowed to use kids. Like, they will stop doing that. Then they're gonna walk in here. You're gonna shake hands and look them in the eyes and tell them you agree to keep the peace. And Jesse's just like, basically, it's like, fine. So then they come in and that happens. Um, well, then something, stuff, other stuff happens, and um, Skylar's and Walt have kind of agreed that they're going to buy the car wash to launder money. And then later in the episode, Jesse finds out that Andrea calls and is like distraught. Her little brother's been killed by the two gangster guys.
Oh dang.
Because they're like, yeah, we won't use him. We'll just kill the kid. Like, he's no use to us now, but he knows too much. We're going to kill him. So they kill her little brother. Um,
So now Jesse's like,
so then Jesse's extra pissed. Yeah. So then Jesse, like Walt, very quick. I don't remember how pieces it together. Walt realizes what happened and like knows that Jesse's gonna try and kill them. So then he like drives over to where they are. So Jesse, like, for the first time since he did rehab, gets high so that he like hypes himself up
yeah.
and then goes and tries to basically like shoot the guys. Um, and while he's walking up to them, they like get out of their car and they start walking up, and like all of a sudden you hear and like it's from Jesse's perspective, and obviously he's high, so not everything's super clear. But all of a sudden you hear these tires screeching, and then Walt pulls up and runs over one of them, like killing him instantly, and then basically like hits the other one kind of off good ways, and then Walt like gets out and like tells Jesse to go and pulls out a gun and like shoots the other one who he isn't killed. in order to like stop Jesse from at least um oh, I wanted it. No, I don't. To stop Jesse from killing these guys. So then that's the second to last episode. The next episode is Full Measures. It's the season finale of season 3. So now the two of them are basically like crap. So Jesse's like, I'm gonna go like Jesse, he basically tells Jesse to go on the run. So Jesse um has this idea like I'm gonna just leave town or like at least hide to make it seem like I've left. So that way Gus can't go after him. And plan was that Jesse was going to take the blame and like Walt was gonna tell Gus that Jesse did it, but then Jesse was gonna disappear. Um and Walt, I think, like helped kill those two guys because he knew that like Jesse's the kind of person that if he killed those guys is gonna feel horrible about it.
Yeah.
Walt really doesn't care. um
Walt's too far gone.
Yeah. So they basically are like, yeah, Jesse's going on the run. But that's when Jesse goes and lives in like the random like arcade house, or, like arcade that Saul owns for some reason. The Saul was that like purchased it as like an abandoned building to like possibly use for money laundering. Um. So then Walt meets up with Gus and Mike out in like the desert or something.
Get your mom's specs. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 I know. I took it down. And I went to the shower. Oh, you. Did you get any snacks? Yeah. Yeah. Not completely asleep then. It's just. Oh, cute. Yeah. Oh. She was the one that caused the party.
Mhm.
And she's got the little blonde. Oh, he put it on the floor. Yeah. Oh, cute.
This is particularly for the stream. I muted myself on FaceTime with my wife. At this point, I've reset so many times. I'm just gonna keep resetting until I get the encounters I want. And it's just useless at this point to try and like actually reset over and over. I'm just wasting my own time. So I'm just gonna catch the first Pokemon I want in the first couple routes. And then reset after that. Give me 1 second.
You were saying that Jesse is in the arcade.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Yeah. So Jesse's hiding out in the arcade that Saul owns. Walt is basically like, okay, listen, Jesse's gone. You're never going to see him again. So let's just move on with our business. I'm going to keep cooking for you in your super hidden underground lab, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Walt then goes in the next day, but Gus is basically like, yeah, that's fine. But I am choosing who your replacement is, or who Jesse's replacement is as your assistant.
Oh, and he chooses what's his
He brings back Gale. Yeah, Gale was the chemist who started out with Walt a couple episodes ago. And then Walt wanted to help out Jesse for whatever reason and was just like, nope, I can't work with Gale. It doesn't work
He
out.
was suspicious that Gail was gonna be like a full replacement.
Yeah, he was just like, I don't remember exact. There was an actual reason. I don't actually think it was that he like Walt actually really liked Gale. He liked how helpful he was compared to Jesse.
Because he's really smart.
Right, yeah, he's an actual chemist. Like he went to UNM and like that's part of the story. It's like he went to UNM and like has a chemistry degree, got scholarships, like he knows what he's doing. So obviously Walt liked him like because they're both chemists. Um but like I think something happened to Jesse or I don't remember exactly what it was, but he's just kind of like, no, I need Jesse back. So he comes back in and suddenly Gale's there. And now one of Gus's like henchmen, Victor, this imposing bodyguard looking dude, is now also watching them at all times. And he stands in front of the door that lets them in and out of the lab to like basically keep them in there. Um so then there's like a little clip of Gale at his house, just like making dinner. And he gets a knock at the door, and it's Gus. And Gus is like, hey, listen, I don't know if Walt told you, but I'm like, we're gonna need to do some like, I'm gonna need you to like be prepared. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's just like, so I guess he probably didn't tell you he's got cancer. And Walt's or Gus is like, or Gail's like, oh, I didn't know that. And he's just like, yeah. And from what I understand, it's pretty bad. Like he's probably going to pass away in the next couple of months at least, maybe sooner. We don't actually know. But the reality is, like, I need you to make sure that you learn how he makes his meth so we can have this process ready to go. If, in case of the worst, he says the worst case scenario. Um, and so Gail's like, yeah, I mean, like, I think a couple more days, I should be okay. Like, I've taken really good notes. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that complicated. Um, I'm just really because like that was the thing is this is related to episodes of Better Call Saul that I've seen, like clips that I've seen. But Gail is the one who helped build the actual lab underground. Gail's the one that like consulted with or Gus consulted with to figure out what equipment he would need. And Gail like helped him test samples and stuff like that. Um, and so Gail is like aware of the whole situation. But Gail, like from all the stuff he had tested, was just like, oh yeah, like people that were making product for Gus before were always at like 75% purity, 82% purity. Walt is like consistently 98% and above. Um, and so Gail was basically trying to like make sure he like obviously Gail's a chemist. He could figure out how to make meth, but it's like figuring out like exactly how Walt does it and the techniques to make sure it's that good. Is like what he's worried about. So, um, then Mike figures that Saul, because Saul works with Gus, um, and Saul has a famous disappearing man sort of dude connection that he has. Basically, Saul has a connection with a guy who can make people disappear, change their identity, sell everything that they have, and move them somewhere else, completely erase their life.
Yeah.
So he assumes that's what Jesse did. So Walt or Mike goes to Saul and is just like, "Hey, tell me where Jesse went." And Saul refuses to help him out. But Saul's kind of wimpy. Saul's very smart and manipulative, but he's not someone who's gonna kill people. He's not gonna fight anyone. He's like he's pretty wimpy. So Mike literally just like pushes him over and like puts his foot on his head and is like, "Tell me." And he goes, "Okay, I'll tell you." And gives in pretty quickly. Um, and basically gives him like an address and is like, he's here at this trailer park in Virginia. So that's what he tells him. Then Walt and Saul meet up with Jesse at the laser tag place, and basically he's just like, listen, Walt kind of pieces together. I think because Gale starts asking more questions about specificity of what Walt is doing, but then clues him in is like, yeah, okay, I do think that they're trying to replace me. Like, I think Gus is just gonna try and kill me.
Yeah.
And so
like the worst case scenario.
Right. And so he's just like, I think Gus is gonna try and kill me. And they kind of figure out like we're gonna have to kill Gale.
Yeah.
In order to like keep ourselves as like necessary to Gus staying in power and making the product that he does. So um basically they're like, okay, well, Gale should be here. So Jesse's like, all right, they don't know I'm here. Jesse's like, I'll stalk Gale and figure out where he lives, get his address. So Jesse gets Gale's address and gives it to Walt. Because Walt is like, I'll go kill him. Walt is like, that's fine, I'll do it. So Walt is at his house, and then he's just like, oh, I gotta go to the store or something. I don't remember. He says something to he basically says something to Skylar's like, I gotta go do something. So he goes and he like gets in his car and he's headed towards his car to go and kill Gale. He's about to just drive over to his house and shoot him. Um, as he's walking to his car, who pops out but Victor, the big black muscly guy, and grabs Walt and's like, well, you're coming with me. You're not going anywhere. And he says, what do you mean? What do you mean? And so Walt freaks out, and Mike's in the car driving. And then what? Then Walt's like, oh no, they're definitely going to kill me. So then they drive to the laundromat, which is where the lab is. And obviously nobody knows the lab exists. So he's like, crap, they're gonna bring me down into the lab. They're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
And like the lab's got like an industrial, like a laminate floor where you can just like a hose down the whole thing. Like it'll be it's like it's the place to kill someone with those there's no proof. Like it's very easy to clean up the fact that you've just killed someone. So he's like, this is bad. And then he basically is like, wait. Don't kill me. If you don't kill me, I'll tell you where Jesse is.
Which why does Mike care about finding? Oh, because the other gang members are looking for him because he took the fall for that death.
No, well, so basically, Gus. I mean, they think that Jesse killed the two guys that Walt killed in the last episode. So, like, I don't know if they really actually care, but maybe it's just like the two dudes might be family members of people who are in the cartel or whatever that work for Gus, and they're mad, and so like they want revenge, and so Gus is like, yeah, that's fine. I don't care if Jesse dies. Like, I'll give you what you want, sort of a thing. That's probably what it is. They don't really need Jesse back. Like, it doesn't really matter. But that's enough to like make Mike be like, okay, that kind of confirms his suspicion. He's not actually in Virginia. He's here in town, hiding.
Yeah.
And he's just like, sure. People would be happy if I got to bring Jesse in. So sure. So he's just like, I need you to open the phone and call Jesse. He goes, I'll talk to Jesse on the phone and I'll ask him to meet up with me. And that way he'll like come straight to you guys. So they open the phone. Walt calls Jesse. And then on the phone, Walt's just like, Jesse, you have to go kill her. You have to do it. Go do it. Like, they've got me. And Jesse like pieces together like, oh, Walt in trouble. I've got to go kill Gale.
Yeah.
And then Mike like, snaps his phone in half. I was like, what did you just do? And he's just like, you might want to like hold on for a second. And gives him this whole big bad speech. And then he's just like, what did you do? And then he recites Gale's address by memory to Mike to basically signify like Jesse's headed to Gale's house to kill him. Like, we're getting rid of your other guy. So then Mike stays with Walt, or is like holding on to him. Victor jumps in the car and tries to go after Jesse to save Gale. And Mike tries calling Gale to tell, hey, leave, someone's coming to kill you. Yeah. But Gale is too busy listening to music on his headphones and dancing in the kitchen while he's making his vegan food for dinner to know. And then when he answers the door, Jesse's standing there. And Jesse's like bawling and is holding up.
Because you said there's that meme.
Yeah. So Jesse's like holding up a gun and then finally shoots and kills Gale through the head and then pieces out. Um, so that's how season 4 or season 3 ends. Starts with season 4. The first episode of season 4 is probably like the next most brutal episode, like scene, I think, in the whole show. Apart from when Walt has to choke out Crazy 8 or Emilio in the basement with the bike lock.
Yeah.
Because that's probably, I think that's probably the most, at least for me.
Hard to watch.
Yeah. So, basically you get a flashback to Gale, who is sitting in like a UNM like or like a chemistry lab somewhere, who is meeting up with Gus, and Gus has basically gotten a sample of Walt's product and has had Gale sample it and test it to see how pure it is, to find out if this is actually like if working with Walt is actually a worthwhile idea. Gale confirms dude's meth is like the best. Like this guy makes super meth.
Loaded.
And so he's like, all right, cool. And Gale tries to basically offer himself. He goes, and he's like, listen, like might not be able to make this nice of stuff, but like I can come close if you want me to do it. And Gus is actually really nice, and Gus is just kind of like, listen, like you've got a great, promising career as a chemist ahead of you. Like you shouldn't ruin your life working
drugs.
Yeah, working for the mafia or the cartel. Like that's just
Cartel's already got this guy. Like
right. Like, don't worry about it. Like I appreciate the gesture, and like Gale probably knows he'd make a lot of money, but he's just like, listen, like you don't want to ruin your life like this. I'm obviously already in the cartel. This is my life, but like you actually have a chance to like live a nice life. um. So then Gus. Oh yeah, so Victor then finally gets to Gale's apartment, only to find Gale dead after Jesse killed him, and then Jesse leaves. But Jesse leaves, but then just sits in his car and doesn't actually go anywhere because he's like PTSD from killing someone.
Oh.
So Victor just finds him hanging out in the parking lot in his car and grabs him and brings him to the lab where Mike has already got Walt in custody. So then Mike takes Walt and Gus downstairs, Mike and Jesse down. Mike takes Walt and Jesse downstairs, chains him up, and holds him there. And then Mike is now worried people will have seen Victor at Gale's apartment and Gale dead because he just shot him in the hallway with the door open.
Yeah.
Jesse did. And he's just like, crap. Like, Gus is probably going to need to kill me as collateral. I'm going to try to not do that. So Victor, if you remember, the other day was playing bodyguard watching Gale and Walt cook meth. So Mike is holding Walt and Jesse prisoner for ransom. Well, they're waiting on Gus to show up. And Victor realizes, I'm not in such a great scenario here. It's just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make myself useful. So then Victor starts grabbing supplies and starts to try to cook a batch of meth from everything he's watched Gale and Walt do.
So he's going to accidentally blow himself up.
I don't think meth involves things that could explode, but
well, the ER episode we just watched, a meth lab explode.
Oh. Well, that's probably the case for people who have no idea what they're doing. He's at least seen these people doing. He's just trying to copy them. So he's like, that's what I'll do. I'll start cooking meth. I'll start cooking a batch and prove that I am actually of use to Gus. And then Gus won't kill me. He'll keep me around. Also, I just realized I've got this backwards. Victor's not the big black bodyguard guy that Gus has. That's a different person. Victor's a Hispanic guy. The black guy is in this season and comes in later, but he's another muscle man. Not that it really matters. Victor's Hispanic. I just realized that that was the wrong guy though, because I remember what happens to Victor very soon, uh, and realized that that is the wrong guy that I've been thinking of. So Gus eventually, or so then it cuts to Skylar noticing that Walt said he left, but Walt's car was still in the driveway because Victor grabbed him and threw him in the car. And is like now suspicious. So she's like, but I don't want Walt Jr., their son, to see their dad's car parked in the driveway, but their dad, or when he said he left, because that, like, they don't want their family to be suspicious. So she like grabs his car and like drives it around the block, parks it, and then walks back to the house. And while she's walking back, she calls Saul and is like, "Hey, where's Walt?" Um, and now Saul is paranoid. He's like, I think that we're all screwed here. I think your husband's gonna get killed by Gus. Like, we're not doing good." Um, yeah. So at this point, Walt has been living in his own condo because him and Skylar are still technically like separated or whatever. I don't remember if you know that. So then she's like, crap. So she then leaves and breaks into Walt's condo. I think this is like the next day. Um, but doesn't really find anything that's helpful. There's a little bit of like a scene of Marie. Marie is Hank's wife. Um, she's not really a super important character, but her and Skylar are sisters, so like they're good friends, and that's how Hank and Walt are connected. Um, so I guess it's like somewhat relevant. Um, but at this point, Hank is struggling with his physical therapy, and is still kind of bedridden from his injury fighting those two twins from the cartel. And at this point, he's getting depressed and like he's pretty frustrated with his life because I mean he's basically right now he's basically a cripple stuck in bed, and
Yeah.
she's struggling with her ability to maintain someone who is like down on his own life and like is kind of just complaining all the time, isn't able to do much for himself,
Yeah.
which is fair. And then comes the very scary scene in this episode in which Gus walks into the lab, peers down from the top of the stairs at Jesse and Walt who are chained up. Well, Victor hurriedly is cleaning up or like working around the lab trying to make a batch. Right.
Jess and Walter just rushing him.
Right. Um Walt then tries to basically launch into some sort of monologue about how you need us like alive, like you can't kill us, like basically like trying to like gaslight Gus and go like, don't kill us. Like you need us. You can't get rid of us, yada yada yada.
Valuable.
And Gus says nothing. Gus just stares at them the entire time, saying no words. Then Gus goes over to the locker where like they have all their change of clothes because they put on like these full like hazmat suits when they're making their meth because they're very professional. Gus like takes off his nice dress shirt, takes off his nice tie, takes off his belt, and like takes off his nice dress shoes and puts on a hazmat suit. Like gets
Not a good.
dressed up in this whole hazmat suit. And then he walks over. And the people in the lab don't see this, but the camera shows it. Like Gus walks over to another little counter over in the corner and picks up a box cutter. And then he walks over and he's kind of staring away or standing far away from Jesse and Walt. But he's standing near where Victor is trying to make his meth. And then in one foul swoop, Gus reaches over, grabs Victor like on the shoulder, and then slices his neck open with the box cutter, bleeding him all over the floor, killing him like instantly. And when the way he does it, it like gushes blood all over Mike, Walt, and Jesse, just covered in blood.
Oh, gross.
Um, he at this point he still said nothing. He then walks back over to the locker room, cleans himself off with like the shower, puts back on his nice clothes, and then looks at Walt and Jesse and says, "Get back to work," and then walks back up the stairs and leaves.
Oh my gosh.
So then Mike stays there as bodyguard while Walt and Jesse have to use hydrofluoric acid to dissolve Victor's body again, as they've done with other bodies in the past, and clean up all of the blood that's now all over the floor, and then start cooking.
Right back at it.
the next morning, they go to Walt and Jesse are then let free and go to Denny's for breakfast, which is which is another kind of like infamous scene that's very mean. Have you ever seen the meme where it's Walt and Jesse sitting at Denny's like across the table from each other, and Jesse's kind of like rambling on about something, like trying to explain something, and then it's Walt finally just like Jesse, what the crap are you talking about?
Seen it, but I honestly don't remember. Like, I don't know if I've seen very many.
That's fair. I've just seen so many of these memes that then once I watch the show and I piece together where these were from, now I like recognize like, oh,
Yeah.
so it probably stands out more to me. Um, yeah, basically like Walt is trying to convince Jesse, like, listen, Gail needed to die. Like it had to happen. Like it's unfortunate, but like that's just the reality of the situation. I'm sorry you had to do it, but like there's not much else we can do. Um, and at this point, Jesse seems pretty like numb to it all, which is weird. He's just kind of like doesn't really seem to care what happens at this point. He's kind of like it's kind of strange. Like he's probably just like in shock from everything.
Yeah.
Um, and then the episode ends with the police at Gail's apartment because obviously he just got shot in the open doorway and his neighbors heard about it and someone called the police investigating. And the police picking up Gail's notebook in which he took notes on how to cook meth in a supersized lab from one Walter White.
Oh, so Walter White's name's in there?
What Walt's name is not in the notebook. Um, but obviously it's pretty like detailed. Like it's pretty like evident from the notebook that like this guy was a meth cook and was doing it somewhere in like an industrial sized thing and like was working with whoever's been making the blue meth. Like that's all pretty clearly pieced together. Um, so that's just like one more clue now that the uh the police have towards Walt and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, hold on, give me 1 second. Bum, bum. Mm, 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 okay. Um, next episode is called 38 Snub, which is the name of a type of gun. Um, so the episode starts with Walt buying his own personal gun. Walt's never had his own gun at this point. He's like taking other people's or whatever. Um,
Thanks.
and he's finally like, at this point he's so paranoid about Gus trying to kill them at any given moment. He's like, I need to have something on me to like protect myself.
Yeah.
Or to just kill Gus if I need to. Like if I had the chance, if I have the chance. So he buys an illegal gun, basically with the intent that like it can't be like traced to him. So it's got no tracks or whatever. Um, and uh, he basically is just like the idea is like I'm just gonna use this to kill Gus the next time I see him before Gus can kill me. That's his plan.
And then I'll free.
Yeah. Like I can run the lab. I'll own this thing. We're fine. So then Mike's hanging at a bar. Jesse, Jesse then is basically like traumatized from the whole scenario, obviously. So he starts like he starts deciding this like he just goes on like a spending spree to spend all of the amount of money that he's made and all this meth cooking. Um, and so he like basically like overloads his house with like a super cool sound system and like basically starts throwing these giant parties for like everyone he's ever met and people he doesn't know. Like just inviting anyone over to his house to just like come and
Not a smart idea, but
yeah. And he's just like he's buying booze for everyone, he's buying drugs for everyone, he's like doing these giant parties. Um yeah, not great. Um and then while he's cooking at the lab, Walt is waiting for Gus to show up so he can kill him. But then, oh, this is where the Tyrus comes in. Tyrus is the black guy that I've been thinking of. Um, he's expecting Gus to show up, and Gus doesn't. Kyrus shows up, and he's like, "Crap, who are you? I don't want to kill you. I want to kill Gus. Who are you?" Um, so he's basically like, "Where's Mike? Where's Gus?" And he's asking this to Tyrus. Um, oh, and then Mike does show up, and Mike basically tells Walt, "You'll never actually meet Gus again. You're never going to see Gus face to face. Like Gus does not trust you at this point. Like
Yeah.
he knows you want to kill him. He doesn't care. Like he's smarter than that. Like you're never going to see him again. Like
You can sell your fake gun.
yeah, sorry about it, but like you're never getting a chance to see him. Um, and then at that night, Walt is just like, you know what? That's fine. I know where Gus lives. He invited me over to dinner one time. Remember that?
Like, that's not his real house, is it?
No, it is. That's where he
It is?
lives. He just lives in Albuquerque. He just has a normal house. Sure he has other houses, but like, yeah, that's just his house. And so Walt like decides after he leaves the lab, he's like, I'm gonna just go to his house and I'm gonna kill him. Walt wasn't really thinking much here. So Walt's like, yeah, that's a great idea. So Walt like parks down the street from his house and then like is like walking up towards Gus's house down the street. And then like 50 yards from his house, he gets a cell phone call. And he's like, what the? And like it's like the middle of the night, no one's around, the street's empty. And he gets a cell phone and he answers the phone call and it's Mike. And he says, "Go home, Walter." And he's like freaking. He's like, "How do you know I'm here? How do you know I'm here? Where are you?" And so now Walt's paranoid. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Mike is just like following me 24/7." Yeah. So Mike and Walt meet up the next day at a bar, and basically Mike's just like, "Dude, I just followed you there. You're very easy. Like, you're not good at like hiding from people or like being sly. I don't know why you think you're good at that. Like that's never something you don't have that skill set. That's not who you are. Like you might be smart and good at cooking meth, but like you're not some like criminal like super spy." Um and he's just like, "I also know you bought a gun. I can tell you're carrying a gun around. Like I can see it on you."
Yeah.
Because Mike used to be a cop. And he's like, "Listen, Walt is trying to gaslight Mike. He's like, you and I are both in danger. Gus could kill either of us at any moment whenever he wants." And Mike's just like, "Listen, um, I'm not worried about it." And Walt's like, "Listen, Mike, if you put me in a room with Gus, if you set up a meeting with me and Gus, I'll kill Gus." And then Mike punches Walt in the face and like knocks him out. And he's just like, oh, yeah. So he's sitting in the bar. He punches Walt, knocks him over onto the floor, makes him pass out, and then kicks him a couple times, and then just leaves. um. So then Skylar decides to just buy the car wash on her own because Walt really hasn't been like trying to like help her out with that.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Bro, why did you do that?" And she's like, "It's a good idea. Sorry." So now they own the car wash. Um. Then Marie and Hank's relationship gets a little bit more strained. She's having a harder and harder time struggling with him as he's kind of depressed um post physical or during physical therapy. Um and like he obviously is upset, so he's lashing out at her for like not being helpful and yada yada yada. Um but he actually starts to have more success with physical therapy. He has kind of a breakthrough where he's able to kind of like walk a little bit on his own with a walker, and like it's exciting. But even though it's exciting, he doesn't even want to tell Marie about it because he's mad and like they're having tense times. So he like keeps
Yeah.
it secret. Um, and then Jesse has a breakdown at the end of the episode when his like 4-day party finally ends. Um, Walt comes into the lab the next day and realizes that there's a motion sensor camera that's been like a surveillance camera installed in the lab so that they can constantly be watching, which pisses Walt off. Um, they buy the car wash. Um, Oh, yeah. Sorry, they didn't actually buy the car wash. Skylar tried to buy it, but then Walt gets really upset and then like is offended and then like curses at his old boss who he hates, who works at the car wash. And basically, he's just and then his old boss is like, "Well, screw you! I'm not going to sell you my car wash then." So Walt kind of ruins it. So then they work with Saul to set up another plan to get the car wash. So they hire some scam artists of Saul's buddies to basically pretend to be investigators from the United States Environmental Protection Agency to go to the car wash and shut them down from contaminated soil samples from the soap that they've been using nearby and shut down the car wash, or threaten to shut it down. And then that threat of closing down convinces the other dude or convinces the guy who owns it to sell them the car wash. So that was the plan there. So um wait, I can do that now. Hold on one second. So they get the car wash. Jesse is still like reeling emotionally from having killed Gale. That's kind of a theme for like the rest of the show.
Jesse's always kind of just.
Yeah, he just never really recovers. Um so he decides that he wants to go karting. So he goes to Saul's like empty like go kart like arcade place. And when he gets there, he straight up just like calls Walt and goes, "Hey, you want to go karting?" And Walt's like, no." And then Jesse's like sad about it. So then he's go karting and he's crying. Um, Give me 1 second. Oh, I guess I should have done this. Bum, 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 bum. Um, oh, and then after he finishes go karting, Jesse's still obviously sad. So then Jesse decides, you know what? Like, I don't even want this money anymore. I have too much money. This is like stupid. And kind of has a mental breakdown. Then starts driving around like a random neighborhood in Albuquerque, throwing handfuls of his cash out the window into like the surrounding area. So
And the moan damage.
yeah. Um, so Tyrus is tracking Jesse as he's doing this. Um, so as Hank continues to give Marie the cold shoulder, she returns to her old kleptomaniac ways.
Oh, she was a collective.
Yeah, that's kind of it's actually hinted at pretty early in the show where there's like it's her like talking on the cell phone and she like steals some like random small pieces of jewelry or like uh just like random things from stores. Like it's not like she's stealing a whole bunch of things, but it's to give the like the idea that like everyone in the show like no one in the show is actually a good person. Like
Yeah.
um yeah. So um oh, so then she starts walking around like um real estate open houses. Like she's going into other people's houses that are for sale and she's taking things from the houses.
Oh gosh.
Um Pretending to be like an interested buyer and then she kind of gets caught up in what she's doing and she gets caught by the police. So then they bring her in um and then Hank shows up at the office and pulls some strings with his old detective buddies and it's like, listen, I'm like, we've been having a rough time. Like, let we'll stop it. But that's the first time Hank comes back to the police, like, or DEA office or whatever, since Gail died, right? And while he's there, one of his buddy mentions, "Oh, hey, yeah, we got this case. Um, there's this dude who had this notebook," and mentions the notebook to Hank. And Hank immediately is just like enamored, like, "Oh, that's like some good juicy information there." Um, was pretty like excited about it. So, um, then basically he's just like, yeah, 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 bring everything you have by my my house, and I'll work on it at home. So now, um, Hank starts working on the case himself
Mhm.
at with like all the notebooks and all of like Gail's like books and such from his house. Um, and it look then the end episode ends with Hank like looking through Gail's notebook, um, that has his like meth making notes at the end of it. Um, and when he like, throws it on the bed, and it like flips over to a page where Gail has a quote. There's something written above it. It doesn't really say what it is. Um, but all it kind of zooms in on is like a little dash, and at the bottom of the page it says WW.
Uh,
And so then it's like, uh-oh, like Gail wrote something about Walter. And so now, like, you're like left cliffhanger, yada yada yada. But now Hank's kind of in a better mood because now he's like excited to like be doing something. So
yeah.
that's what kind of Hank starts to get a turnaround. Um,
It's fruity.
yeah. So I don't know why it starts with this, but the episode starts with Mike sitting in the back of a Los Pollos Hermanos chicken delivery truck that is actually delivering meth, moving meth.
Yeah.
When suddenly the truck screeches to a halt, they've been like hijacked. People are trying to like steal the meth from the car. Uh, and
So the
Mike busts out, pulls out his gun, shoots all the like the robbers, the hijackers, and takes the car back. And like, you see that Mike like barely grazed the bullet, like a bullet like shot him in the ear, like a Donald Trump moment. Um, but he escapes. So then they get the car back. Um, then Walt and Skyler have bought the um car wash, but now they're like, okay, but now people are gonna know we own a car wash. We've got to come up with some sort of cover up for the fact that now we own a car wash and we had enough money to do this. When it seems like, I mean, to everyone we know, we've been destitute, like barely able to pay for your cancer treatment and all this kind of stuff, right? They got to come up with a cover story. So their cover story is that in emotional distress from his cancer diagnosis, um, um, Walt took to gambling.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so basically they come up with an elaborate story where Walt got really, really good at playing one particular gambling game. Um, and we got successful at like, counting cards, which is what allowed him to basically go to like poor casinos that don't have good like security or whatever and gamble a bunch of money and make a whole lot of money. Um, and so that was what they had come up with before. Oh, sorry, that's what Skylar had told Marie previously when they offered to pay for Hank's medical bills when he got shot. But she asked Marie, hey, don't tell anyone. This is kind of still a secret. We don't want anyone to know. But now they've kind of, Skylar and Walt have been basically training Walt to get good at counting cards and playing whatever this card game is. So it seems like a legitimate thing that he's done. And then they talk to Marie. They're like, we're gonna like share everyone, and we're gonna have a family dinner, and we're gonna talk about it so that everyone knows it's out in the open.
We don't want to lie anymore.
Right. So that's what they do. They have a dinner, and basically,
He
um,
shows up his girl.
yeah. So then they tell everyone. Well, they don't show off, but they shared the story with Hank and with their son. That basically they've made all this money for Walt's gambling addiction and making a bunch of money. And both Hank and Walter Jr. are like, nice. Like it's kind of
That's
yeah, it's kind of badass. Like nice, good job. Like, it's kind of that's good. It's cool. Well, while at dinner, Hank's talking about work because Hank's in a better mood, and of course he's thrilled about this new case that he's been working on. So he starts talking about how he has been working on the murder of Dale Bedecker. And now Walt's like, blink, blink. Um, and they're having dinner. And so Hank's basically like, yeah, like it seems like this is our Heisenberg guy. Like he's got all these notes about the super lab where he was making his blue math. Like it kind of fits all the pieces. But for some reason, something, I don't know. The dude was weird. Like he was a vegan. Like he was just like the super nerd, was just like probably like making fun of him. Like he loved all these nerdy video games. He's probably a virgin, like yada yada yada, like dunking on Gale. And I mean, he's probably not wrong about most of those things. Um,
Yeah.
anyways, but Hank is Walt kind of like is like bitter about it because he's kind of like upset that like, oh crap, we might not actually be in the free from Gale being dead. But also, how dare you, like that's my work that you're like accrediting to someone else. And he's also upset that like he can't tell the truth about how he's been making his money, like how cool he thinks he is and all this power he thinks he has and yada yada
This
yada.
is like a gang boss now.
Yeah. And so Walt, in this emotional moment of his, starts like drinking an excessive amount of wine at dinner. So then Hank's like, yeah, and he's just like, I actually brought some of his notebook by, or Gale's notebooks by. I wanted to ask Walt some questions about it because there's a lot of chemistry stuff. So he's like flipping through some of the notebooks, like he's got like a whole box and he's like flipping through some of it. And they're going through Gale's like main notebook where he took notes of how to make meth from Walt. Um, and Hank is sitting with Walt and Walter Jr. on the couch, like looking through these notebooks. And Hank is like flipping through, looking at thing, and sees like a random page where Gale had written down to WW, my star, my perfect silence. Which sounds weird, but he wrote that down. And then as a joke, Hank's kind of like, I wonder what WW stands for. And he's just like Willy Wonka, like um something else. I don't remember what it was. And then he like looks at Walt and he goes, Walter White. And Walt literally looks him in the eyes and goes, you got me. Like,
Oh
yeah. And then obviously he's like joking. And then like he's just like, well, let me see that. It actually sounds familiar and grabs it. And Walt actually knows that the line, my star, my perfect silence, or whatever, he like flips it over and finds another page. He goes, that's a reference to a poem by Walt Whitman, who wrote a poem where that's like the ending line, which was that's actually what Gale was writing about. But he sees Gale, like the most important detail is he notices Gale wrote down WW when he wrote down for Walt Whitman. Um, anyways, so they're talking about this, yada yada yada. Now Walt is worried that they're gonna find out that Jesse's the one who killed him, and Jesse's gonna get linked and get in trouble.
Yeah.
Um,
Poor Jesse's not gonna make it. Prison.
well, yeah, he's not gonna make it most places. Um, hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna plug you in. I'm gonna save my game and all.